Alright, so I've actually had this video requested quite a lot on my channel. What fruit should I use for the first or second seed? So I'm going to be combining all of them into one video. What is the best fruit for every single seed in Blox? So if you guys enjoyed this video, make a like, subscribe, let's get right to the video, guys. Alright guys, so for the first seed, there's going to be 4 different fruits that are actually the best in my personal opinion. Starting off is obviously going to be the light fruit. The light fruit is probably one of the most, you'll see a lot of light fruits in the first seed. It has an insanely good traveling ability, so you don't need to buy boats, because usually at this point in the game you don't really have the luxury boat game pass, so you're not going to have fast boats. So the Pika fruit is actually one of the fastest fruits in the game and will get you from island to island, so actually will make your grinding a bit faster. Not only that, but the light fruit does have some pretty good AoE attacks that when you group up all the NPCs you can kill them very quickly, pretty decent damage amounts, and the actual sword of light does scale based off of the devil fruit stats. So the light fruit overall is just a very solid fruit for the first seed, and I do recommend it as a go-to. Now the next fruit's actually going to be the smoke fruit. Now this is actually going to be for very similar reasons as the light fruit. Not only can you avoid most of the M1s from the NPCs, but it does have a decent flight move and has pretty good low cooldown damage moves. Something you'll notice with all of the first seed ones is that they're either all Logias or they're all going to be things that are meant for grinding. My personal recommendation for the first seed, it's kind of a noob trap. Do not focus on PvP at all. Do not do PvP. You can PvP people, but there's not really any point to it. 99% of the time you're just going to get crushed by like a level 1 million player that comes out and just instantly one-shot you with an ability. So I recommend do not focus on PvP right now. Only go for the grinding fruits. I'm going to be listing the 4 best ones in my personal opinion for the first seed. So you do have the light fruit, pretty good, pretty low cooldown abilities, pretty sizable damage, pretty good for grinding, and good flight ability. And smoke is honestly pretty much the same exact thing as light, but it's significantly more common and it's not as expensive to buy permanently. So it's a very solid fruit if you actually can't get your hands on the light fruit. Now next up in the first seed is obviously going to be the Buddha fruit. Now I'm just going to get this out of the way. The Buddha fruit is going to be in every single seed, but it's going to be for different reasons every single time. So the Buddha fruit is a very solid grinding fruit. Despite no matter what seed you are, it turns out that making your M1s bigger and giving you damage reduction is good no matter what. Now unfortunately the awakening of Buddha is in the second seed and not in the first seed, so you won't it won't be as good as the full awakening. But some people actually prefer to not use the awakening of Buddha because you still get bigger M1s, so it's up to you in all honesty. But I do recommend getting Buddha, especially if you're planning on maining a sword or fighting style. Now last but not least in the first seed is going to be the bomb fruit. This one should be for very obvious reasons. It has a really good nuke ability and pretty sizable damage output. The AoEs of it is pretty good, so it's very easy to round up NPCs and one-shot them with the actual bomb fruit. Another honorable mention of the first seed is going to be the spike fruit. Spike fruit, very low cooldowns, pretty good damage. Alright, if you like the video right now, you will get 10 million times luck getting any of the fruits in this video. The only way to find out is hit that like button, subscribe. Now in the second seed, we're going to be starting off with the dough fruit. Now I'm only going to recommend getting dough if you can awaken it. So this might be something that you get later on in second seed, but it is one of the best fruits for the second seed. Because the second seed, what you're mostly going to be doing is raids, or you're going to be doing boss fights. You're not really going to be focusing on normal NPC grinding, even though you will be doing NPC grinding probably throughout the entire game. Bosses and raids are more important in the second seed than the other thing. So dough, especially if you can awaken it, is an insanely good, boss fruit, and it is okay for NPC grinding, but the main thing people use it for is for bosses. So I definitely think the dough is a very solid fruit when awakened in the second seed, and you might be able to get into a bunch of law raids just because dough is a very good stun fruit. I would also like to mention that in the second seed is when PvP starts to pick up a little bit. In the second seed is when you finally get enough stats to go full-fledged into damage, so you can actually, combo the, higher up players. So you can start, getting a little bit into PvP, but I do recommend that you still focus on grinding throughout the second seed. Probably when you hit third seed, then you can like chillax a little bit, but second seed, your level's still going to be pretty low, so you definitely should focus on grinding still a little bit. Now obviously next up is going to be the Buddha fruit. Buddha, like the first seed, is honestly just going to be for the bigger M1s, and you could also awaken the Buddha fruit, but unfortunately the Buddha raid is one of the hardest raids in the game to do, so you're definitely going to need a lot of assistance with the Buddha raid. But if you can get some assistance with it, or you can get into it by giving people a fruit, awakened Buddha will pretty much make your grinding through the second and even third seed insanely easy. So Buddha's just a hardcore recommended one as well. Leopard, guys, so this one may be surprising to you guys, but Leopard, now this is going to be only for PvP. If you guys want a PvP in the second C as a low level, Leopard's a very, very solid fruit, as you know, as it's just a really amazing PvP fruit. Only for PvP though, guys. Leopard for grinding, it can be used for grinding, but this is just a PvP entry. Now, last but not least, what I recommend for the second C is going to be the magma fruit. The magma fruit has insanely high DPS output. You could also awaken it in the second C to make it do even more damage. I do recommend at least doing it twice. At least do the first 2 awakenings of magma to get the flight ability and the insanely high damage Z-spec ability. But magma, guys, very, very solid fruit for the second C. You could awaken the abilities. You could actually also PvP with a little bit, so if someone's being very annoying, you could just spam the abilities on them and sometimes one-shot them if they don't have any HP. So not only is it really good for bosses due to the high damage, it could also be used for NPC grinding, even though it's not as good as Buddha, but it still is insanely good for grinding, and it actually can be useful for PvP content. But guys, what fruit did you use for the first, what fruit for the second, and what fruit for the third? Comment it below. I will check them out. Now we're going to be coming up on the third C. Now the third C, guys, I do recommend, this is when people start getting hardcore into PvP, so most of the fruits on this are going to be for PvP, but I will be listing a little bit of the grinding fruits as well. So starting off in the third C is going to be the dough fruit. Just like the second C, guys, awakened dough will make third C extremely good, especially if you're getting attacked by people constantly. You'll be able to defend yourself with awakened dough. Also, in the third C, you can still do a bunch of the raids. There's also a lot more bosses in the third C as well, so the dough awakened version will make that a breeze as well. So dough awakened still a really, really good entry. Now, just like the second C, guys, Buddha, awakened Buddha, not only is it good for PvP, but is insanely good for grinding, and it will help you level up in the third C while also, you know, being able to defend yourself or even, you know, get bounty a little bit with the actual Buddha fruit. Now, unfortunately, with Buddha, this is when Buddha actually starts to fall off a tiny bit because you're actually getting enough stats that no matter what devil fruit you use, it still will do a lot of damage. But the Buddha fruit's still very, very solid for grinding and very solid for PvP. Now, just like the second C, the leopard fruit's going to be making its way into the third C as well. The leopard fruit is a very, very solid fruit for PvP. I do recommend to get the leopard fruit, at least, you know, level it up for PvP if you're actually going to be PvPing in the third C. Now, all of the next fruits are going to be mostly for PvP, but this one is not. The Phoenix fruit. This one may be surprising to some people, but awakened Phoenix is honestly amazing for the third C. Not only can you escape people really effectively with the Phoenix, but you can also heal your teammates, so you're going to be useful in raids or boss fights, so people will want to carry you along. And honestly, just Phoenix is just a very, 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 very solid fruit for the third C. You have a lot of sustain. You'll be able to fly away from people that are trying to kill you. You can go from island to island pretty easily, and it's just a very, very solid fruit in general. Now, like I said before, the next 3 fruits are going to be mainly here for PvP, starting off with Rumble, probably the best sword main PvP fruit. It also is okay for grinding as well, so you won't hate, you know, awakening it if you actually still want to grind. Dark fruit, another really good sword main fruit. Dark fruit, you know, it's not as good for PvE as all the other fruits on this list, but it still can be used for PvE, but people mostly use this just for PvP. By the way, guys, when I hit 300,000 subscribers, I am going to be doing the 1 chip challenge. So I will be doing the 1 chip challenge at 300k subs. I just wanted to, you know, let you guys know that I did the, you know, the super spicy pepper challenge at 200k. At 300k, we're going to be getting a little bit hotter with the 1 chip challenge. So make sure to like button, subscribe, guys. And last but not least, in the third C, as my personal recommendation, is going to be the Venom fruit. Now, the Venom fruit has a really high mastery requirement for it, so you definitely need to do a lot of grinding to even be able to use the Venom fruit effectively. But the Venom fruit, guys, very, very solid fruit. It's insanely good for PvE content due to high AoE and high damage, and for combos you'll be able to slap some people. PvP is insanely good, and the transformation does reduce the amount of damage you take. So overall, all of these fruits honestly in the third C are mainly here for PvP, but a lot of them are also good for PvE. That's something you'll notice within all of the C's besides the first one. Like the first C is going to be all grinding fruits. You just want to get the hardcore grinding fruits. Second C, you kind of want to get a little bit of mix of grinding and PvP, more still on the grinding side of things. And then in the third C, you're going to be going into the hardcore PvP fruits, because no matter what, you're still going to be able to do a lot of damage to bosses unless you're using something like Door or whatever.